My name's Evil Young, and let's go free to play. Hello, guys, and welcome back to another day of Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. Yay! Yeah, so just like yesterday, I kind of feel a little bit sick again, but we're just gonna keep playing because fun. It's a fun game. So I did do my sign in today. While I was at work. So I collected some energy and some cantina energy, and I did one squad arena. So yeah. So one of my friends has told me that they liked the rant yesterday, and it was fun to listen to. So I'll probably go into it again, because it was kind of fun just talking about the differences between America and Japan. So he said that he wanted me to go more into um, the aspect of okay, we're not winning this. The aspect of the schools about Japan. So, uh, and since I am a teacher in Japan, I guess that would make me a pretty good person to ask, revolving around that. So, in my opinion, when it comes to schools in Japan, Japanese, Japanese, um, Japanese elementary schools are a lot better than American ones, in my opinion. Um, that's just mainly because I think that academic level that they come out of elementary school is much higher than American students, and also that they are brought up to be uh, like they're brought up to be respectful towards their teachers and things like that. But then we contrast that to American schools where a lot of the times parents will continuously blame their own teachers, saying like, "Why is my kid failing? Why is my kid failing your class?" Blah blah blah. It's like if you were teaching him properly, it wouldn't be he wouldn't be failing or things like that. Um, but at the same time, it's like, but actually, it's like maybe it's your kid who's doing a poor job, and not the teacher's fault of why he's failing the class and things like that. But there's just also just like the culture aspects because a lot of times the teacher in Japan is viewed as a second parent figure or like a third parent figure to the students. So like they could talk to their teachers about many things, and um, it's unfortunate to say like teachers in Japan could be a lot closer to the students than ones in America because they don't have to fear that they're gonna be ridiculed for like having like a nice relationship with their students versus in America if you're like even seen talking to a student outside of school, you're deemed as a danger to the student versus here where it's like nice. It's like you I seen my students at like at a game center or like an arcade, and I could talk to them. Maybe I could play like a game with them, but nothing besides that. And it wouldn't be totally weird. Um, I've had students come up to me outside and say, "Corey Sensei, you want to take? Can I take a picture? Is it okay with you?" I'd be like, "Yeah, it's okay." And that's another thing. They ask if they can do said thing. In America, the students wouldn't ask about anything. They would just take the picture without your permission and just post it online, and that'd be all that. And that's really disrespectful when you're not just asking someone like, "Hey, can I do this?" like with your image or something like that. Like they give you no option. So things like that, and where the students are just grown up differently and just uh, just raised differently as well. I mean, I understand that in Asian countries, the students, or at least children, are held to a much higher standard of education that they're trying to achieve, and the parents really want them to succeed, so they're all sent to like cram schools, like I said in the other video, and they must do well because their family wants them to. And if they don't do it, like you hear all like these things about students like committing or unaliving themselves, and it's not something that you want to hear as a teacher that students are doing. Like if one of my students feels bad, I try to make it so I can help them, because like maybe in the past I might have been less caring about it, but now that I do teach students that it's very important to make sure that you're listening to them, and that their needs, or like their troubled thoughts, are being heard, because sometimes it does get brushed away here in Japan. It's like if a student is doing poorly, and like they're just so scared to ask for help, because it's like, oh, I must just study and things like that. It's a thing called like shogunai, where it's like it is what it is. It's like all I must do is study and I must do well. But I think if they're keep being stuck in that mindset, that it's going to be dangerous for their health, in which I think, at least in America, that is much better, indefinitely, than what Japan does. So, alright, so I was talking about elementary school. Now, junior high school is where it starts becoming different, at least a lot different in my opinion. So, American junior high school, it's where kids start becoming themselves. A lot of individual characteristics are coming out and things like that. Maybe you're stop caring about school as much, like not stop caring, but your main focus is that you're trying to create your image. At least that's in my opinion, is to create your image of who you want to be. Now, a lot of students um, would probably try to make a name for themselves, at least within the schools, and um, things like that. But in Japan, sometimes that's kind of where the creativity dies. It's like, which is unfortunate, because a lot of those students are very creative, and that they're all brought up at this time to be thinking the same. Like, don't try to be someone else. Stick with the group, because if you stick with the group, you can't fail. Um, but that leads to a creative, like, null. Like, there's nothing there except one idea. And at least in America, it's like, even though we might not agree with everything that we are with our that we think with our peers, at least we can get a common ground somewhere in there and discuss why we might think something is better than something else. But if you're different here, um, there's a Japanese saying in English: uh, if you're a nail sticking out, you're going to be hammered down. And that's pretty true when it comes down to it. And I think a lot of people in Japan fear that type of stuff. And it's probably scary. It's like, if you're trying to be the only one trying to do something, and no one is agreeing with you, and you're going to be kind of scared to show uh, your own stuff. Completely understandable, but I just feel it's a little bit sad to not be able to creatively distinguish yourself between everyone, or even be individualistic to a point. Like, just like being able to be yourself is very important to the American people, being able to just identify as what you want to be, do what you want to do, is very important. Now, I understand that it is a different culture, like I said in the last one. Like, I know this is not America, but if I could change one thing, I think it would definitely be that is to allow more creative thought in the junior high school situation. But once again, I still think junior high school academically, the Japanese students are just much better. Now, when we get to high school, I don't know much about high school, but students have to take rigorous testing to get into high schools. That's why I said yesterday that they have to go to cram schools to study for these tests. And this is where a lot of the stress comes from with them testing. If the amount of studying that they have to do is so high, and it's in my opinion a little ridiculous because like if when I'm in class and I ask my students, oh, like what are you going to be doing for the weekend, or like what are your like plans? They're like, oh, we have to go study. We have to go to Juku cram school. I'm like, eh. I'm like, oh, don't you get, like you want to have fun? You're like, yeah, we want to have fun, but we have to study. Like they have very little time for hanging out with friends and other things like that, which is a little sad because when you're little, when you're like still teenager, early teenagers, or even like 12-year-olds or 11-year-olds, you just want to hang out with your friends. You don't want to be staying inside all the time and just studying. Like, or maybe you just want to play a little bit of games. But no, it's a really hard situation, and I could not imagine that happening in America. I mean, I know some of my friends they had to go to crams like Kumon, but even then, it's like I don't even think they had to spend even that much time versus how much these kids spend at that. It's weird in my opinion. But then again, like I said, I'm not Japanese, so uh, I don't fully understand the need to do it. Now, my worry is with these students is that if they fail and they spend all this time wanting to achieve the school that they wanted to get to, but then they fail. And now I know like a lot of Americans have heard about the suicide forces and things like that, and they're real, and it's not good. Like you could go on Japan News and see that a kid has done it, and mainly it's because like, oh, I failed at school, or I failed at getting into the high school I wanted to, so I feel like a failure. And it's like I just want those kids to feel like, hey, it's not the end of the world to not be able to go to that school that you want to. Like you can do so many things and not unalive yourself if like maybe you just go to a different school. Like have a backup plan. And yeah, I just want those kids to have like a good chance at doing what they want to do. So, and American high schools. Oh, and I should say, uh, at least in New Jersey, where I'm from, at least we can choose electives. And like I said before about us being able to like do what we want to do. When it comes to electives, yeah, we can choose a lot of cool things in America to what we want to do, and yeah, just have a good time. And but here, there's no electives. There's only clubs, but I think like just having one specific thing in school to show what you want to do is it's not enough. Like to fulfill like your if we're looking at this as like a Sims game, there's not enough like need, or you're filling up the bar enough to fulfill that social desire, because you're only doing this for like an hour and a half of a day, and then you immediately go to cram school. The social bar is not there, and I feel like these kids definitely need a little bit more socializing. Jap- the Japanese are notoriously shy, at least when it comes to it, when it comes down to it, and I would like them as a people to be able to speak what they want to speak about, but it's kind of hard to do. Even with teachers that I work with and their children, they say like, "Oh, I would like to send them to a American school so they can experience like being able to have your own creative thoughts, or be more open-minded, be able to critically think." Because they're not, even though we take that for granted in America, like here, it's like a lot of kids cannot critically think, and it's really surprising because we're just like always taking like these critical thinking English classes, and we're like, oh, what's the need for this? It's so stupid. Actually, now that I've taught here, I'm like, actually, it makes pretty good. It makes a lot of sense, because at least in certain situations, I can think really fast and be like, okay, this is how we're gonna do it. But here, no, it takes a little bit of time to get him to do it, so it's a little rough. Um, but yeah, it's. Let me know what you guys think about that, because I really want to know. It's like, do you think it's fine the way it is because it's just a different culture, or do you think they should improve into it? Now, like I said in the past, it is just Japan. Um, Maybe China does it too, but I'm not sure. But being able to critically think is definitely important. So I will definitely give the point to the American schooling system for high schools, because being able to cultivate yourself into what you want to do is very needed, in my opinion. And it would be very good for the Japanese to adopt that system. So, uh, I think I did everything that I actually already need to do today, and I already used 150 crystals to refresh. So that's all I actually needed to talk about. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the little rant again, because it's just always fun to do. A little unfocused. I'm probably gonna have to write more focused scripts of what I want to talk about. But yeah, let's do it again. I'll have another rant for tomorrow, and yeah, I hope that people could think about how, maybe our different how school is actually really important of shaping how we grow up to be, and that even though I see two systems in front of me, I don't think one's perfect or necessarily even better than the other. I think they're both fine. It's just that I wish that both these systems could be incorporated within each other, and then we could succeed in that way. Like, build a better system so kids can be who they want to be while also achieving academic success. And it'll be great. Thank you. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.